Mike Reiss is the ESPN. I should ask Reiss to give him a ride home. Is the ESPN NFL Nation reporter covering the Patriots, and he's brought to you by DN Van Lines. Moving your home or business and need a recommendation from someone? How about the recommendation from almost all the staff here at the Sports Hub and the Sports Hub itself? In fact, they moved me, and I didn't want anyone to know I was moving at the time. This was over a year ago, and they said, we'll keep it on the DL. So they hooked me up. Yes, they moved the station too, online at dnvanlines.com. Mike Reiss joins us on the Volkswagen Dealers Expert Hotline. Mike Reiss, hello, sir.
Good morning, Fred. Good morning, John. Good morning, Mike. It all makes sense now. I was driving away from the stadium last night on Route 1. I saw this big pack of kids all running down Route 1. I said, looks unruly. Now I know, Fred, it was your son and his friends. Excellent.
Yeah.
Should have picked him up.
Real scofflaws. Yeah, well, you pick them up, you might get a knife to the side because I mean they don't play the fool. I mean they're rough kids. They're they sniff glue, they stab. So Mike Reiss, okay, so
there you go.
That's right. There you go. I of course am kidding. They don't sniff glue. So Mike Reiss, what when you were the first until the last drive of the first half, did you, because statistically Billy Zappi looked really good, did you think he was playing like a really good game?
Absolutely. He was hot. I'm looking at the stats now. At halftime, he was 17 of 19 for 141 yards with the touchdown. I thought he was playing poised, guys, and he was avoiding the mistake to keep the team in the game. So to me, they were in pretty good position at halftime, down 14-10.
What is the difference between the first and second halves for Bailey Zappi each of the last 2 weeks? Great first half in Pittsburgh, not much to speak of in the second half. And yesterday, great first half against Kansas City statistically. And then again, he seemed to disappear in half number 2 and make bad mistakes. What do you attribute that to?
I think experience, John, is the first thing for me. I mean, obviously the mistake, right? I mean, the Chiefs get the ball. They did the whole double score thing that the Patriots have been good at, touchdown at the end of the second quarter, field goal at the start of the third quarter, 10-point swing. Patriots get the ball back at their own 21-yard line, third quarter, 10:22 on the clock. First play, Bailey rolls out. First read isn't there. That ball needs to be in the stands. Instead, he tries to, thread it in there, and it's intercepted, and the Chiefs turn it into a touchdown 2 plays later. I think, to me, that's just experience. It's like the more you play, the more you, I don't want to say avoid those mistakes, but, there's a young quarterback who hasn't played a lot in the NFL, and I think that's what you see with young quarterbacks sometimes.
I think ultimately, though, I'm trying to figure out, because this season is a lost season, obviously, and the Patriots have more questions than answers, especially with the quarterback position. I'm wondering what your thoughts are for Bailey Zappi based on what you've seen. Do you think he will be here next year in some capacity?
I do. Well, John, I think he'll be here, for the off-season program. He's under contract. It's at a cheap number on a rookie deal, as he sort of referenced last week, and why he didn't have anyone at the Pittsburgh game, because he's still on a rookie contract. So I think he'll be here. I think the whole conversation is a good one, John, because if you don't have the quarterback position accounted for, you put your whole team at risk. And I would think they'll have 3-4 quarterbacks here, and there's no reason that he wouldn't be one of them. I think the context to me would be, I don't think he would be one that they'd be relying on to be the number one guy, as a backup or a depth guy. I think he's shown he has some value to the team.
Okay, Mike, what's going on with J.C. Jackson? Do you know?
So here's what I know. So Fred, I don't know if you saw this story. His agent, Neil Schwartz, told Adam Schefter of ESPN that he's dealing with mental health issues. JC has talked about that on the record with Mark Daniels of Mass Live, how the last couple years have not been easy for him from a mental health perspective. So on this topic, like, the first thing I would say is, like, I do think empathy is important. something obviously happened before the game where the Patriots thought he was going to be ready to go at 11:30 yesterday morning, because that's the deadline that they have to declare their active and inactive players. And we don't know exactly what happened, but when we piece together that the agent says that JC is dealing with mental health issues and the Patriots thought he would be ready to go 90 minutes before kickoff, and not only did he not play, he wasn't even on the sideline, I think we can deduce that something happened with JC along with that in line. I don't think it was like a disciplinary type thing as much as a true mental health issue for JC.
All right, for someone who's covered the team as long as you have, is this one of those scenarios where you think if Belichick just gave even like the tiniest amount of information, it would require the agent not having to come out and say something? It would stop. I know you're not speculating. I know that you're just saying, it's a mental health issue. Don't you think that the team sometimes makes things worse by being so quiet about these things, or do you think it's the right move?
I understand what you're saying, Fred. I think on this one, and I'm going to I was in the locker room after the game and I talked to one veteran defender who has a lot of love for JC, and the player was very concerned for JC. And so I think in this situation, and when I say very concerned, I mean it's sad. There's sadness around it for players that watch JC come in 2018 and work his way up to get the big contract, and now he's having these problems. And so there's a sadness around it. So I think in this situation, I'm not sure. I actually think I understand where Bill is coming from on this one. Yeah, Fred, I don't know if he comes up there and says, JC had a breakdown, and I'm not saying this is the case, but let's just hypothetical. JC had a breakdown in the locker room before the game. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? That seems almost insensitive to me.
Right, but yeah.
So what do you guys think?
I think that would be insensitive. I think that saying, though, JC is going through something right now, and his people and the team felt it was better he didn't play today. And then it kind of I think that's better than just not.
Yeah.
And I don't, the more people I talk to this year that played for the team or people that are around the team, I don't know how many favors Belichick just not saying anything is doing anyone. That seems to just kind of be the chorus that I'm hearing from people. Maybe not in this case, and maybe, he handled it the right way this time, but it just seems to be something that people keep bringing up.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Fred. I think I guess with the whole mental health issues, I think we've learned so much over the last, or at least I should speak for myself, over the last few years, that I think my first thought on when this topic comes up is sensitivity, and so I think it's hard for me to be critical just given on this particular topic.
Right.
And I do think, and I will say for JC, there's another side of it too, though, is look, the team was counting on him 90 minutes before kickoff. And that really, not having him really hurt the team, and so there is an aspect of, look, this is a business. And so there might be some trickle down effect from this, guys. Like JC might end up on injured reserve. He might not be we have to see the next step on this. So it's, there's a lot going on there.
Mike, Ian Rappaport came out with a report this week that the Patriots still are unsure what's going to happen at the end of the season with the head coaching position. When you see the defense play so well, does this bode well for Gerard Mayo? And could he end up being the head coach of the Patriots? And I know he's, the biggest name out there, but you look at the success of somebody like Antonio Pierce in Chicago. Could this be the right move for them?
So Gerard's obviously highly thought of, right, Mike, around the league. He's had interviews with multiple teams. So I think if we're talking about a change, that's a place to start, obviously in terms of who the Crafts might look to. But at this point, I think it's hard. It's hard to know what's going to happen and where it's going to lead. I think it's going to have to be a very thorough situation regardless. Like, I don't think it's like season ends and it's over. Like, there still needs to be meetings, conversations. And then if they get to the point, Mike, where they decide they want to make a change, like, they're going to have to go through they have to follow all the rules. They wouldn't just be able to name Gerard. So, and Mike, the other thing too on that, I just say, like, sometimes I think as a head coach, like, we look at like guys, good defensive coach or good offensive coach, but really that job is about so much more than just like one side of the ball. So sometimes I caution myself from like reading too much into like, oh, his unit was really good. You know what I mean? Like, we should hire him.
Right, but is he somebody who, because he's a younger guy, he would command, respect in the locker room, and the guys, obviously he commands respect in the locker room, but would the guys follow him more because he's a younger guy who is just in the game? Like, would he be a good chemistry type coach?
It's a good question. These jobs are so hard. And I think we could probably there are examples on both sides where there have been younger guys like that have succeeded, thinking of like Sean McVay. And then others who didn't, and I guess I'd say like Josh McDaniels in Denver, his first time was the first one that came to mind. Certainly not the only one. So, Mike, honestly, like, that's a tough one for me. Tough one for me to say, because sometimes I will say, like, when you're a player and you go into coaching, sometimes you almost need to like separate yourself from the players, because that coach role, like, you can't be one of the guys, is what I'm trying to say. Sure. And so sometimes that transition can be a tricky one for some.
With so much of the conversation about this team's future, because the present is basically decided, at least for now, I'm wondering what you're looking for as far as players are concerned. Obviously, Christian Barmore stood out yesterday, and to me, he's a foundational piece, a guy that you want on this roster for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. But on offense, I'm trying to figure out which guys are actually going to be around in 3 years. And watching this team, which guys on offense can you pick out? Can you pick out anybody on offense that will be on this roster in 3 years?
Well, how about who should be, John? Like Micah Wenu, right? Like, lock him up, right? Like, the offensive lineman, he's a guy to build around.
You missed their chance, though. He's going to be a free agent.
I know. We might have to tag him or, be at the top of the market. But he would be the first that came to my mind. So 3 years from now, who else would Pop Douglas would be another. I think he's shown some promise.
His durability doesn't scare you at all?
It makes me a little nervous, Fred, but I think still I'd put him on there. Ramondre, I'd put on there. So that's 3. And you challenged me because it wasn't easy, right? Like, I really had to
exactly my point.
Really had to fight for those 3.
Yeah.
What did you make of the comments that who's the corner that made the comments about Jack Jones?
Mills, Jaylen Mills.
Jaylen Mills. What did you make about Jaylen Mills' comments on Twitter when he said it's amazing what you can accomplish when your coach believes in you? Did you think that was directed towards Jack Jones and the situation he had in New England?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know, Fred. I wondered what he was referencing. I think that's the hard part with social media. Someone can say something and it's not entirely clear what he's
Don't I know it?
To.
I'll tell you what. Don't I know it? I put myself in the hot water myself.
But Fred, on that one, I would just say if Jaylen was referencing Jack, I mean, I'll just like Jack had a lot of chances here, and it was never about the football. Right. With Jack, in my opinion, it was about all the other stuff. So that's how I viewed that one.
Okay. And are you getting a sense at all that, I mean, certainly the team doesn't look like it's quit. I mean, you saw the Chargers game. I mean, that's a team that quit. I don't think the Jets played particularly hard against Miami. It certainly the Patriot team doesn't look like it's quit.
It's just a talent issue.
But you also have to hand it to Belichick that the team hasn't quit. I mean, They haven't. And so Does that mean anything to you? Does that count anything to you when you're looking at the totality of this season?
It does to me, Fred. I know some people look at that differently and say, look, they're professionals. They should be able to play hard.
No, but some
regardless.
teams do quit. I mean, we've seen it.
I know, and it does, and so it does mean something to me. And I think I try to put myself in the shoes of the Crafts. Like after the season, they're going to have to make a decision, and that would have to be part of the calculus to me that they at least discuss. Have they tuned out the head coach? And at this point, with 3 games to go, I don't think you can say they have. I've talked to players in the locker room that passionately defend Bill Belichick. And they're not all like older guys. They're younger guys, which to me ties to the other question of, is he reaching this new generation of players? And it's hard to know when you go in the locker room what the percentage is. But I would say like Jabril Peppers is one example. He's in his 7th year, so probably in the mid. But he told me the other day, guys, he's like, I want to be one of those players that Bill Belichick talks about with his friends, that he coached when he talks about, the greatest players, So no, I think some of those guys in there, they really like him. They don't like the flack that he's taken this year as a result of really what John said. I think just talent, which comes back to him. He's the one that put the team together. So it's sort of it's got a lot going on there.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt he's not a very good GM, but he does seem to be keeping this team together, and this team might be even worse if he wasn't the coach. One last thing. It just seemed to me watching the game, I obviously wasn't there. My son was, if that counts for anything. But the team just seems to like Zappe a lot more. Am I reading too much into that?
I don't know. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would say that. I think just
they seem to be like really. Did you know what I'm saying? Like when Andrews was up in his face and
he's not Jones. I don't think it's Zappe. The fact that he is not Mac Jones.
Well, that's right. Well, that's the comparison. I said they seem to like Zappe a lot more than Jones. Is what I'm saying. That just seems to be the case to me.
Well, I think what they like, to me, I would focus more on the performance. Like Zappe, when you talk about David going up to Zappe, like he was on fire at that point. Like even the touchdown that was called back from the offensive holding, like that was a great throw to Hunter Henry. So I think what you're seeing is they're responding to positive performance, at that point that was pretty consistent over 2 quarters. So I think to me, it's more about, and Mac even said this, like, I think you generate and spark confidence among your teammates through good play. And I think it's more about that than any like personality thing. And so I think it's more about that Bailey was bawling at the time you saw that reaction than anything else.
All right. Well, there you go. The great Mike Reiss. And may I do this for you, sir? Have a wonderful Christmas time, a fantastic New Year, and we look forward to talking to you in 2024.
Absolutely, guys. This has been a lot of fun. I look forward to finishing strong this year.
Absolutely. The best to yours, and
happy holidays, man.
Happy holidays. Thank you so much for the time.
Appreciate you guys.
All right, appreciate it. There you go.